J. Guess what? It wasn't recording.
So this thing that is going to take place right now is it was supposed to be something that we address very amicably, but would agree about the same thing, but that is not possible because in life there will always be some opposition or there will always be contrary views. So we were having a discussion earlier about something, and I decided, or we decided, that maybe we should just make it into one kind like lie podcast. So that's what we are going to do. Instead of us talking about relationship and how getting 5K, if they dash you 5K is a bigger something. No, we said let's just talk about something more important, I think. But anyway, so what we're discussing about was, I was of the opinion that despite technological advancements, despite the fact that healthcare has improved, even in simple things like hygiene and methods of diagnosis, I still believe that our grandparents lived longer and healthier than perhaps our generation and say Gen X. But she's like, not necessarily.
Yes, actually, he said healthier and longer. So I was also of the opinion, or I am of the opinion, that if they were healthier, why do we have hereditary diseases,
Yeah.
right? Like the cancers, the carcinogens, some of them
Okay.
are hereditary, right?
Yeah.
That's to show that our grandparents had that recessive gene in them.
Okay.
Okay. And then one of the leading cause of deaths in our society today is accidents. Now, road traffic accidents. As of then, they had no automobiles. Okay? So right now, you see fatal accidents,
Yes.
plane crashes,
Okay.
and other things.
I see where you're
Did you
coming
put
from.
that into consideration? You see?
Yeah, so that is almost backing my point now. Yeah, that is almost backing my point because let's say they didn't have there's this guy Darren Olin, he calls certain things fatal conveniences because they were healthier because perhaps everywhere they had to go, they had to walk. Perhaps the foods they had to consume were grown locally. So they were healthier. They didn't come across like thousands of miles or even other countries to consume food. So maybe they were healthier. But I think what I would agree with is maybe the technology to address things like road accidents, maybe there are better ways. So if anybody had an accident, maybe there are better ways to care for them and treat those things. Maybe broken bones, better orthopedic, and all those kind of things. But these are, I think, these are the things that I've been talking about. That maybe the structure of society then made sure that the things that are killing us, even though they are supposed to be helping us, the things that are killing us, the things that were supposed to make us comfortable, are actually harming us. So let's say even the food thing, the food we're consuming, less plastic.
Yes, less plastic.
Our parents did not have, our grandparents did not have bowl where they would put in a microwave and all these microplastics they would ingest.
No doubt.
Anything they had to eat came from the ground.
Fresh.
Yes,
Yes.
they didn't have fridge. So they had to cook every day, which meant they were not sedentary and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that now. So you were saying about something about diagnosis,
Yes,
and
yes,
everything.
diagnosis.
What was that again?
I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to go over it again.
Okay.
They did not have the technological advancements that we have now. So even if someone was having a certain disease condition, it was termed as punishment from the gods.
Especially mental health, bah?
Especially, yes, that was the lunacy period, right? In the history of nursing. So you see,
Oh, so like we have Greco-Roman era, like we have the Elizabethan era. There's what
yes,
in nursing they call lunacy.
lunacy period.
Is it that everybody was getting mad, or
No,
everything was
no, they attributed ill mental behavior to the moon. Yes,
Eh?
lunar, moon.
Oh yeah. No, I've heard of that. Which they said there is a bit of scientific evidence to it. Not that it can be the reason, the cause for everything.
Yes.
But
there
there are some
is.
behavior that are highlighted during the shifting of the moon or something.
Especially the full moon, new moon actually.
New moon.
New moon.
Okay.
Yes.
So that lunacy period. Yeah, of course, I know that because even when I was growing up in Freetown, Sierra Leone, everything then was either you were so wicked, like when people had dementia, they said, yes, it is the wickedness that is catching up with them. That's why God has given them madness. And we did not know it was some of these mental decline or cognitive decline. Sorry. And so lunacy period. Okay. Yeah.
So if we had things like that then, that were not being diagnosed as of then, definitely we had low cases of cancer. You know,
Not that there were actually low cases of cancer, it's just that there were no diagnosis.
exactly. Thanks for correcting me. No
Okay.
diagnosis of cancer. Because we tend to see in our generation these days that some of them originated from our parents and grandparents before them. So we may tend to ask, how come this gene was recessive in this person but was dominant in me? Is it the Charles Darwin's theory, right? The X and Y, that crossing.
Is it the chromosomes?
Yes,
Is it Darwin or no? It's not Darwin.
it's Darwin that had to do with the cross matching of
Chromosome.
yes.
I thought it was who did Mendelssohn? Is it not Mendel? It's Mendels or Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn was the classical guy. Mendel and Darwin. So you were part right. I was part right. But I thought I was confused between Mendelssohn or Mendel. Mendelssohn is the classical guy. Then
Okay.
Mendel is the chromosome guy and all that. But yeah, so you were talking about that, the cross matching.
Yes, okay. If we use that cross matching for a parent, let's assume the father is AA and the mother AS.
Okay, that's blood type.
Exactly, blood type. If you're using that cross matching, for example, I'm just going to use that as an example to know the to predict the genotype of the offsprings.
Yeah.
You're going to have about if they're going to have 4 children, there's going to be at least one AS amongst those 4 children.
Okay.
Meaning that though the parent having AS is a carrier
Okay.
of that what's it called? Of sickle cell, right?
Okay.
That person doesn't actually have it. Now, how did that person become a carrier?
It's through genetics, right?
Again,
Okay.
through genetics. So if you're to trace this down.
Now, so yes, somebody explained that. I don't know if I don't know these things much, but I don't know if blood type and I don't know if genotype and gene expression are the same. But this is what someone was explaining. Can't remember who. It was saying that, or she was saying that, because you have that there are many factors that can determine to things that we call hereditary diseases. One of them is practiced behavior. For example, in a particular region, they are likely to be practicing a particular kind of behavior, maybe dietary pattern, maybe lifestyle. And that culminates to inheriting certain things, maybe even the food they eat. But because you have a gene does not mean that it will be expressed. So having a particular genetic predisposition is not a sentence to say you must have the condition that your parents had.
No.
If you had, if you're not expressing, if your gene is not, if that gene is not expressing in a particular way. So I don't know if that is saying that there were things that were not diagnosed in our forefathers, perhaps even though they had those kinds of genes. But their lifestyle, again, I would go back to things that they ate, their behavior, the fact that they worked with the circadian cycle meaning the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun, because they, of course, they had palm oil lamp, but you couldn't use them so brightly at night like we had TVs, like we stay up way past bedtime. And even our genes work with the circadian cycle. So our parents were probably primed, because technology and science had not gotten to the point where they still had to work with the sun. They still had to work with the seasons. They still had to eat with the seasons. So perhaps that aided them in living more quality lives than us. That's my argument. Now, but your argument is that they probably had those things,
Yes.
but we didn't know, because
didn't
what
know.
you don't know, you don't have.
And again, I also want to remind you that back then they had very rich people amongst them who live like some of us do now, sedentary lifestyle.
A sedentary lifestyle.
So those people didn't have to go to the farms.
Yes, but that is a very secluded few. Perhaps the elites of the elites. In Europe, maybe, because they had all these gouts, all this weird stuff, because a king will chop like half a pig. Now, that's
and then
for
he
them.
will be carried.
Yeah, he'll be carrying them and everything. They'll even find them while they are sleeping. Man, living la vida. So anyway, but me, I'm saying, especially for African society, the reason I'm very particular about African society, babe, is this. You know about the blue zones.
Yes.
Why don't we have any
In Africa.
in Africa?
Probably haven't been discovered yet.
So we know, maybe we have,
Yes.
but probably haven't been discovered yet. Because I look at, we had two situations in close to us, that very young people died.
Yeah.
And one had a tumor. She was how
Brain
old?
tumor.
19.
19, yes.
The other one, mouth cancer, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are the stressors? What are the causes of these things amongst very young people, especially in an age where science and technology is supposed to be preventing these things?
Well, for our age right now, we tend to consume more sugars. I would say the foods we eat now. So I'll have to like cross over.
Yeah, no, carry it. Carry it.
I'll have to like cross over to your points, right? So sugar predisposes us to this, because I learned that one of them, the one with the buccal cancer,
Okay. Yeah.
consumed loads of sugary products. That man could drink like 5 bottles of Coca-Cola in a day.
Yeah, he was a Christian guy, right?
Yes.
Because it is ungodly to drink beer.
Alcohol,
but
yes.
is-
But Coca-Cola, I mean, first of all, it is processed.
yeah.
Secondly, high sugar content. And one of those things that predispose us to cancer is high intake of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he was a fan of
No, of sugar.
sugar. And then that is 1. 2, the processed foods, yes.
Yeah.
Sugar, processed foods, right? 3, exposure to certain chemicals.
Like, I discover now that even the farming practices in Nigeria, which were for the most part organic, maybe just 2 decades ago, is not even close to being that anymore.
No.
Everybody's talking about chemicals.
Everybody's selling fertilizers.
And the thing is, we don't even have strong regulatory structures right now. Government is trying. I've been privileged enough to see how the dealings in government is, but our people are hard. Our people can find ways to circumvent all these policies and structures and stuff. But that's the challenge again, is that chemicals, exposure to chemical. And the one that scares me is there are people putting stuff in food.
Yes.
I heard of one that somebody wanted to buy honey because he was doing something and he needed honey. We later discovered that they were adding honey. They were adding Evo stick. It's like an adhesive. Evo stick, something like glue. They were adding it to honey to make it look thick. Then there was another situation where someone was coming from I think I read this on Twitter, where someone was coming from the farm where she was drawing honey from, and the guy, the Bolt guy that was going to transport her to wherever she was going to deliver the honey said, "What's wrong with you? So you are going to suffer yourself in the bush, going to collect honey, when I could show you how to use sugar to make honey."
Wow.
Now, and so he was feeling like that baby is not smart. She's going to allow they are going to sting her and everything when she would just sit down and make honey. Meanwhile, they would recommend that no, don't take sugar, take honey because of antifungal property and everything. And you think you are doing the right thing. You are taking organic honey. Meanwhile, you are taking sugar and Evo stick. And somebody will be saying that God has blessed them. So you've mentioned what? 3 things. Sugar. You mentioned processed foods. Now we've talked about agricultural practices, chemicals, and all that. Another thing I would want to point out is sedentary lifestyle.
Okay.
Because I referenced that perhaps in passing when we talked about the fact that our grandparents, they walked
active
everywhere. So we're supposed to, they said the average, you're supposed to walk between 6,000 to 10,000 steps. Now what time is it now? It's 1:30.
Yeah.
I have covered 787 steps.
Only. And how many have I covered?
And we are back. So we're talking about what? Sedentary lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's been, 1:30. I've only taken about 787 steps, which means I have over 5,200 and something to go. I'm not sure I'm going to want to do that because outside
it's hot.
It's hot.
It's really hot.
And so I don't have the technology, or I'm not rich enough to have treadmill in the house and all of these gizmos and gadgets. But we look again at how society is structured in the 21st century. What were you going to say? You
just pointed out something. Another predisposing cause of skin cancer is exposure to sunlight.
Okay.
Our forefathers did not have sunscreen. And then some of them had the skin diseases, which were undiagnosed.
But as black people now, melanin protects us, doesn't it?
Melanin protects us. How about the whites who get married to blacks?
Okay.
And then
yeah, but why I'm very particular about our own frame of references is because I can understand they have all those things, but for our own frame of references, the fact that even with our society that is not yet as developed technologically, I feel we should be less burdened with some of these things. I remember watching a video that was talking about some of the fatal conveniences of the 21st century. And one of them is emotional stress. The fact that your stress system, your fight or flight system works in such a way where in the days of old, that you are predisposed to animal attack. So that is your flight or fight response. Now, even when we get notifications from social media apps, it's what's that one? It says that response. So we are constantly in a state of stress, something they didn't have back then.
Yeah.
We look at even emotional stress. The other day we were watching a podcast where somebody said, I think I made reference to that again, that nobody should give her 5,000 naira, or that's like giving a beggar 5,000 naira. What does she want to do with 5,000 naira? Me, I want.
I want to.
Even urgent 2K. I want. But, there are things that society has structured such that it's as if we are constantly under pressure, whether it is to impress, whether it is to keep up with the Joneses, whether it is to hammer, whatever it is. We are constantly in a state of stress. Our parents did not have that.
Yeah, and then our health again causes us such stress. Some of us, sometimes they say it's better to go undiagnosed. Then you won't have any stress or worry. Then some of this anxiety and depression attributed to certain illnesses is as a result of knowing the diagnosis. We have 5 stages of grief, right?
Yeah,
where you have to go through all of
denial
them.
and all those kind of things.
Yes, you have to go through all of them, and it affects you mentally.
Yeah, so I remember then when AIDS was still a huge thing, that people say it is not AIDS that kill you. It's the
It's the
fact that
fear.
you have, that you know now that you have AIDS, that
Yes.
is the worry that will kill you. But there's a part of scripture that said worriness is like rottenness to the bones and all that. But anyway, these are the things we wanted to discuss. We're just debating. Maybe there will be more to talk about.
Yeah, actually, there is more to talk about. So
Yeah.
it's like,
So, from a nurse's perspective, she's a nurse. But another challenge we have again is the medical field that does not pay attention to alternative lifestyle. It seems it's just about curative measures rather than
preventive
preventive measures.
But nursing is into preventing, like community health nursing. We go about sensitizing people in communities on what to do about their health and how to prevent certain illnesses or diseases. But then when you come to the state or suburban/urban level, they really don't need this, because most of them will say they have gadgets where they could read about all of those things and how to avoid them. But yet they're the ones actively doing those things, which we over there in the local communities are advising against.
Well, I bet what is Africa's problem? Because you see, I feel we're actually at a threshold of a really interesting time in life where technology can help us live better, but we have to balance it with some of the traditional practices we had. I feel if we can find ways to create an interesting balance, don't throw away the need for local governance.
Yes. This was a theory of a man. I can't remember his name, but in the medical field, he said traditional medicine and orthodox medicine could go hand in hand.
Yeah,
I believe my colleagues and other medical professionals and some other people will know this man I'm talking about, though I've forgotten his name. But he said we should keep around the TBAs, that's the traditional birth attendants, and our well-trained midwives. They have things to learn from each other. There's certain what's it called now, deliveries that some of our midwives cannot handle, that TBAs would do very well. Okay, and then we have the traditional bone setters, and we have our what are they called now?
Orthopedic doctors and
exactly. There are certain things that will need invasive treatments, and the bone setter, traditional bone setter, will just find his way to maneuver.
Yeah, we have an example of that where someone was supposed to do the orthodox orthopedic system, and they said she would end up having a limb. Then they went to meet one guy, even though he's older and everything, but the guy set it, and within about 6 weeks, she was already in crutches, and now she's running all over the place, and without a limb. So, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, because another challenge I have with our people is we are quick to abandon anything that we think is local. We have this belief that local is synonymous with inferior. Then everything foreign
is the best.
Is synonymous with superior. So some of us, We don't even want to talk with local accent. And we feel local means you are not educated. Some of us don't want to associate with anything local or that local champion. Me, I want to be local champion because a champion is a champion. Would I like to explore outside? I do. I like it, but it doesn't mean that everything that is traditional should be discarded. I think that balance is important. Now, if you are going to give a young man like me an advice, especially with regards to things that we've discussed, take into consideration sad events that have happened with our health and everything. Let's say you would give tips. What are the simple tips you would give? Just basic, simple things that one can implement today to just, improve your quality of life.
Yeah, basic simple tips. I'll advise you cut your sugar intake.
That's
Not
going to be hard.
necessarily totally not totally avoiding it, because you need glucose sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
So you just cut it down, do more veggies and fruits. Though we have natural sugars contained in
fructose
those things, right?
Yeah. But at least don't just make it into juice.
No, eat it.
Yeah.
Don't juice it. Eat it, okay? And then what else? You own your own garden. Own your own garden where you don't have to use certain chemicals to grow your foods, because sometimes we go to buy veggies and we're thinking, since na plants good food, but believe me, what that plant was fed while growing, it's very unhealthy for you. And then we have genetic
modified stuff,
chickens and all of that. I saw one day in the market,
and chicken that looks like ram,
featherless, but man, that thing is almost my size. Big. It was big. It had no feathers on it. But it was really.
So that was like the Goliath of chickens.
And I was like, what species is this? And someone told me it was what I can't remember what they called
something agric. They used to call them agric and all that. But
I'm not talking broilers, though.
Yeah, this one's special. But that's the thing, because our demand, maybe we've become a gluttonous generation. Our demand for all these things, for the luxury, is so high now that science has to find ways to catch up with our needs.
To satisfy it.
So then you're talking about owning a garden. I remember when we were growing up, we had gardens. We had all sorts of trees. We had cocoyam, we had guava, we had bananas, we had this African apple, African star apple.
We call it agbalumo here.
The massive tree. We had yams. We would plant yams, potato, cassavas, and all those kind of things. And we had that. It was normal for almost every house to have garden. Now it's not posh to have a garden. Somebody will see me with my boxer, with my shorts, and they'll say, see this one, they behave like a local person. A quick digression. I remember when I was in school, University of Jos. So we had mango trees littered all over the place. One day I saw ripe mango. Direct from the tree, from God to man. I climbed tree, and somebody was coming, was like, you won't go and buy mango, you are climbing tree to pluck mango.
Really?
Are you that Raz? Raz meaning for the non-Nigerian government means, are you that uncouth? Are you that shrewd? Are you that local? Are you that not posh? And I'm like, that has to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So instead of going to pluck directly from the source, where when it's nutrients dense, when it's very bioactive, I will now go and be looking for the one that I don't know whether they pluck it from ground, whether they planted it with one kind of chemical. But then I'll now go and waste my own money to go and buy something I don't know the source of. But to him, it was like, it is on. What if a girl was coming to the hostel and sees an educated guy, a college guy,
fine man,
I hope, climbing a tree and plucking mango. Who am I? So these are, there's a whole reorientation that I think this generation requires to be able to create that balance.
This generation wants things the easy way. So irrespective of how much we have to spend to get things easily, most of us do not care at all. We just want. You hear this thing. There's this phrase they use. I'm a soft girl. Soft life. Yeah. So they want soft. They want the the soft life.
I like soft life. But I think some things might be counterintuitive, where the fact that it is so soft that you say use it or lose it, that we don't use, for example, soft life, you become sedentary. You don't move, you don't exercise your joints.
That's the kind of soft life.
Soft
they
life,
want.
so your bones are brittle. Then another soft life is you take any kind of thing that they offer you. People are eating meat, it's 6 pieces of meat every day with 2 eggs.
That's the life for them.
You understand? Then it's soft life. Then you are so sedentary that you don't even break down these things that you're eating. Soft life, soft life, soft life. By the time you are 30, then you have a health problem. Then that's when the rehab life begins. You now have to
Start
manage.
having bone issues and all of that at such, what should I call it, a young age?
Yeah. It's been an interesting discussion.
Yeah, it has.
Let's see. We should make it a podcast and look for a name for it. Village people or the untitled podcast.
The Untitled Podcast.
Peace. Oh, by the way, my name is Amri.
And I am Habila Precious RN.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
G. Guess what? It wasn't recording.